traveling to another train of thought, one not from this century and challenging the status quo. You are now entering the paradigm shift.
Well, good Monday morning, July 23rd, 2018. This is the Paradigm Shift, and we are live this morning. I'm off this morning. I have to work this afternoon, so I decided, what the heck, we'll do a live show. We got so much to go over anyway. It's been a while since I did a show, and like I said, things are just going crazy. We have all kinds of different things. I was going to begin the show talking about secession and the California ballot, and how the Supreme Court has denied people the right to vote on the ballot initiative to break away from the Union and to create 3 states. But we're going to start somewhere else this morning because just before our good friend Suzanne Sherman went on vacation, the Facebook SS, the Nazis, the jackbooted thugs of Facebook, decided that she had crossed the bounds of their community guidelines with a post. And truth be told, and we're going to talk about this. She's on the phone, and we're going to talk about this in a second. But truth be told, what she did was quote another person. And on top of that, she attributed the quote to the person. So she didn't plagiarize it. She attributed it to the person that actually made the statement. And the person that she quoted actually was discussing it in her page, and it could be her that turned her in. Who knows? She was the person was claiming the victimhood that we were all ganging up on her. But anyway, so she received a ban just before she's leaving for vacation, and so I'm going to open with that. I have an article here, and I don't see who wrote it. It might be at the end. I'll let you know. Facebook shuts down Christian ideas while letting others post threats. And Facebook has become one of the great censors of our day. Rather than provide a forum in which people can express their own views freely on controversial issues, that is, from a left-wing perspective, Facebook administrators have seen fit to selectively impose their radical sexual ethics on users on the social media site. And I'm going to stop there. I'm going to bring our good friend Suzanne, who is on vacation. So just be aware that she's calling from the hinterlands. I mean, she lives in the hinterlands, but she's really in the hinterlands somewhere else now, and at an undisclosed location, hiding from the Facebook SS. Not really. She's having a good time, I am sure, because I know about where she's at. So good morning, Suzanne. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift on the Cerberus. Let me get this out of the way. Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. Now we can go, because I got all the stuff out of the way I had to do. So how are you today?
Greetings from behind the Iron Curtain Facebook wall.
Well, it's just crazy, and you can explain the whole post and that's what it was. And I think I described it correctly when I said you quoted someone else's post. It was her post. You attributed it to the person that actually made it, so you weren't stepping over any bounds there ethically. So what happened with this whole thing?
Well, here's what happened. Some people know, I used to ride horses and involved in competitive horse shows. And, a lot of the people in that hobby are very, very liberal. And a holdover from my California days is still on my page. And nice gal, she was a teenager when she joined the barn, and now she's a young lady. And she posted, I think it was a picture of a canvas bag that said, I went to Planned Parenthood, and all I got was a health exam, breast exam, STD check, low-cost birth control, and then a plethora of other little goodies that they get at taxpayer expense for pennies on the dollar. And then, there was one crucial element that was left out. So my comment was this, and I said, you're very fortunate. Millions don't survive the experience. And you could see this mushroom cloud just explode her page after that. And many of the comments, F you backward Trump person, get the hell off my page. That sprang forth from another girl's page who had commented, and she was an animal rescue activist, a 19-year-old girl in California, who posted underneath mine, I see on your Facebook page, you murder animals for no reason, and you say that taking a clump of cells from a mother's body or a woman's body is horrible. You are a stupid person, and, just on and on. So I posted that quote verbatim with quotation marks and the gal's name on there, so it wouldn't, so people could see what we're up against. That's why I said, this is what we're up against. This is the mentality. That violated community standards. What part of community standards? Who knows? Do we even know what they are? But I bet you anything that the original poster of that bot is running her page happily. And it was one of those instances that we now, particularly I don't consider myself a conservative, but Facebook has me pegged as ultra right wing, whatever. We have to watch what we say. And we're to the point where if we see a post, rather than just expressing our opinion, we have to say, now, you know what? I better just scroll past this and not comment, because then all of my ability to communicate is going to be cut off if it displeases the Facebook overlords. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm not crying foul. It's their business plan. They can do what they want. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, they're controlling the controversies here and skewing everything in their directions. I used to say that the internet was the town square of the 21st century, where we could speak freely and express our thoughts with impunity. And that's not the case now, because as Facebook gets more and more successful, and good for them, they are still a private entity, they are determining what the narrative is going to be. And the problem is, everybody goes there for communication, to keep up with family, for their source of news. And it's become very obvious that certain viewpoints, and you gave me an example this morning, are simply not going to be tolerated. This makes George Orwell look like thought control light.
Yes, and this article is from the Federalist, and the author is a Robert A. J. Gannon, PhD. And again, the title of this article is "Facebook's Ideas While Letting Others Post Threats." And I'm going to this is what I read to you earlier, and I'm going to read it to the audience as well. This was the post that this Dr. Gannon, excuse me, he's doctor, Dr. Gannon was banned for on Facebook. And I'm going to quote now. Okay, so my posting on this video was straightforward, semicolon. And here's his quote. Here's his post that got him banned. This clip is about celebrating sexual perversity, not sexual diversity. Brought to you by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the Canadian equivalent to our PBS, paid for by tax dollars. No indoctrination or recruitment going on here on PBS, right? Question mark. Little sarcasm there. Any resemblance to Orwell's Big Brother or Kim Jong-un is purely coincidental. Question mark. It is a measure of how corrupt things have become that this woman is not vilified throughout Canada, and legislators are not threatening to remove funding from the CBC. By the end, the woman is talking to little children. Again, this must be about a video like we've seen with the drag queens reading to children, and I'm not sure which one this was, but that he's talking about. But obviously, it's one of these ones that along those lines. By the end, the woman is talking to little children about Jodie Foster helping her to question her own sexuality as a child, and about Jodie Foster's nudity in a film. End of post. That is what got this gentleman, Dr. Gannon, banned from Facebook. In his case, it must have been a first offense. He only went to the SS only sent him to the concentration camp for 24 hours. Our Suzanne Sherman now has graduated. The SS now has banned her and put her in the concentration camp for 30 days for quoting someone else's post. It wasn't even her post. She didn't violate the standards. All she did was quote someone else's quote. So if she violated, the person that made the original post violated, and that person should be banned for 30 days as well. At least that's my
But
opinion
see,
on that.
that person was in favor of abortion. That's the problem.
Correct. And that's what this guy was saying. So on June 14, I'll continue at the beginning of this article. On June 14 at 1:09 p.m., I learned that Facebook blocked me for 24 hours because of my alleged, quote-unquote, hate speech. They made my post visible only to my eyes and fixed things so that I could not post or comment on my Facebook page or even send communications through private Facebook messaging. I was directed to the community standards that prohibited a direct attack on people based on what we call protected characteristics, sexual orientation, gender identity. And obviously, you can't question someone on their ability to murder a baby. So that must be a protected class as well. See, we have this problem in work too. We get this just about every year. We have some sort of training at work about protected classes. I'm sure you are quite aware of that too, Suzanne.
Well, it's become the point now. Protected classes are superior classes. This isn't about protecting anybody's feelings. This is about suppressing the beliefs, the expressions, the ideologies of one class, and that is the Christian class. We're not seeing this attack on Islam, and if you try and attack Islam, you'll get the ban hammer as well. If you express a certain ideology, you're going to be marked, and there will be an algorithm. For instance, I made a post on a friend's page. It was about cultural Marxism and what words you could use. And I said, I got a 7-day ban for using the word, and I put it in quotations. It's not the national N word. It was the other one. But I said I used that word in a historic context. And I was referring to Huckleberry Finn. I read that book. We were assigned that book in school. And the world kept spinning. Little heads didn't explode all around campuses on this continental landmass. Everybody was fine. And I used that. Boom, that got me 7 days. I got a 3-day ban where they found something that was 10 years old. Again, it wasn't even an original post. It was a comment along those similar lines. And what they're doing now is using an algorithm and going years back. Greg Carpenter told us about this. And if you are profiled a certain way, and you can go in your settings and find out how the Facebook overlords have categorized you, you can see, and depending on the categorization they have for you, it's going to depend on what you can say. So if it says left, far left, progressive, or whatever those terms are, I'll never see that on mine. You've got to watch what you say. So the question becomes, do we allow the government to step in? And I've heard conservatives say, well, the government really should step in if Facebook gets even more powerful in suppressing messages. And I say to that, no. Just because the company becomes very successful, does that mean the government should step in? Even though I'm on the losing side of this argument when it comes to being allowed to speak freely, I still respect their right as a private company, notwithstanding these silly arguments. While they become so successful, they have a monopoly on speech. So there's nothing stopping conservatives from starting their own form of Facebook, and we've tried. It's just not successful. So I guess the question is, what do we do now? I'm trying to find alternative means. We're about to launch our own website for our network. Our good friend Mark Graham is going to be helping us with that. And, try and direct other people. I know our good friend Rick Barrett is also saying, I'm only on Facebook to announce shows. I would like to walk away from it completely. Since this whole thing happened, I took it off my phone. I took it off Messenger. And other than my few friends here, I'm just not missing the drama or the controversy. I have other means to reach them.
Right. And see, here's the whole thing. Pretty much what I've done with Facebook is I have gotten to the point where about all I ever post is shows. Like this morning, I posted the links to the show, Radio Co. Hopefully you're listening on Radio Co. because that probably is one of the clearest and best mediums we have. If you're watching, and I know there's people watching on YouTube right now, because I can see it in my bottom corner. If you're watching here, thank you very much. You can see that I have a face for radio. So, but thank you for joining. I'm glad you're listening here. But, the fact of the matter is, the only reason I'm on Facebook anymore is for Cerberus. I get on here, I post the shows, I post about articles. So occasionally I'll find an article. I'll put basically it's like a blog. I use Facebook as a blog post, and I put a big blog. I'll explain my stand, how I stand on a certain issue on an article, and I just use it as a blog post. But even that, because I'm picking liberal darlings and I'm lambasting them with natural right truth, with liberty. I'm not, again, I don't consider myself a conservative. I am quite literally, I am a classic liberal. So would Jefferson, so would Madison. They were classic liberals. Liberals have hijacked the term that actually, what's the root of the liberal? Liberty. So, I'm to the point where I don't do a lot on Facebook. I rarely respond. And if I respond, and that's about it. I walk away from it. I make my statement and I walk away. I don't get drawn into long, drawn out arguments over what I said, because what I do is I'll quote the Constitution. And you said something just a minute ago. You have conservatives that want government to step in and stop the censoring. Here's the problem. What are the first 5 words of the First Amendment? Congress shall make no law. There you go. Congress shall make no law. Is Facebook Congress? Obviously, no.
What's interesting, in law school, we're taught about this. I forgot the name of the case off the top of my head. I'm in vacation mode. But there was this, what we call the public function test. And I think it was a grain silo case out of Indiana or Illinois, somewhere back there, where this private organization, this private individual, had grain silos that the town was using for storage, or you could rent storage. And people got so dependent upon that they decided the government needed to regulate it, and they called it the public function test. You can look it up, or I can expound upon this later on. But when a business entity essentially becomes so successful that the public relies on it, the government now has a de facto not only right but obligation to step in and regulate this. And we're seeing this all the time. They never, ever stop themselves. I mean, look at an Uber, for instance. At what point does a group of private individuals, consenting adults agreeing to give each other rides for a fee, mean the government has a right to step in? They don't. They're going to do it just because they can. Why? Because who's jerking the chains of these politicians? Oh, gee, I don't know. The public transportation taxi lobbyists, perhaps?
Exactly. It's all about money. Because who's not being paid if Uber is successful? Government, because there's no fee. They're not paying the taxi fee. And quite honestly, if you looked at some of the, Suzanne, have you ever seen what some of these fees in some of these cities are to open a taxi service? It's thousands and thousands of dollars. It's insane.
Not only that, Washington, D.C. is putting, I think, a 500% tax on these Uber and Lyft organizations. And what is the money going to be used for? To upgrade the struggling DC Metro public transportation service. We are the government. We have the power. If you minions open up a competing resource or opportunity for the minions, for the peasants, we will tax it into oblivion to pay for the government favored monopoly for you. If you choose to stray outside our little plantation, you will pay heavily for it.
And that's what it comes down to. They're not there. They don't care about anything other than the money. And here's the thing. This is your way of a little bit of secession. You can opt out of all these taxes. But no, you can't. You're not allowed, because they'll find a way. They track everything you do. They know every communication. So you can't even call your friend and for a fee. Say you have a group of people that you know that are doing an Uber type service on their own, outside of the realm of the government, regulating everything they do. And what if you call them and do it? What are they going to do? They're going to find this guy for being a taxi service without a proper license, without the Crown giving its blessing to that organization. That's liberty. We're free. So, any last thought? I'm going to go back and read a little bit more of this article here, Suzanne. And if it sparks anything, we'll finish up on this in just a few minutes. I'll let you get back to your vacation. And so,
Sure.
So he goes on. I had responded. Okay, so he's going. Here we go. What heinous act of hate speech did I commit? I had responded to this perverse video from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation from the program CBC Life. In it, Canadian television personality Jesse Cruikshank sits at a table with a garland of rainbow balloons, providing lead-in questions to 2 girls and 2 boys who seem to be at ages 5 to 8. The purpose of the video is simple: to proselytize for support for Gay Pride Month. It's awesome to talk to other people's kids about sex. Cruikshank started by proclaiming "Happy Pride, everyone," and asked who knows what gay pride means. After getting an answer, she gushed with glee, "It's a celebration of sexual diversity." Then she enlisted them in the LGBTQ cause by telling them, "So I'm not gay, but I'm a gay ally." And as an authority figure, she coaxed them to join her, asking, "Are you gay allies?" Subtext: "You better be if you know what's good for you." So that's what Facebook's doing. And I'm going to go back up a little bit to what you said earlier. The thing is, we got to realize that Facebook is a private company. It's owned by a private person, Zuckerberg. And with that, he can do what he wants. He can deny service to those he wants. Interestingly, though, a baker cannot deny service to bake a cake to somebody simply because of his Christian values, but Zuckerberg can deny your ability to speak your free expression. That's a natural right, which is not which government has no power to do anything about. You have the power by walking away, denying him your money, not giving him your assent to his service. And like you said earlier, Suzanne, we tried MeWe, we tried Gab, and outside of a few people, AA, and he knows who that is. He knows who he is, and a few others. I can't remember everyone that was there. A few of you did follow us over there, maybe 10, and so we had like 10 people following us over there. So we had no reach. And what happened to those? I stopped posting them. Why? Because I'm wasting my time. There's no one getting it because I'm getting those same people on Facebook. So we are at this point where government doesn't need to be involved. It's not a government's business. They didn't pass a law. And quite honestly, who cares what Facebook does? If that's what they want to do, that's fine. We need to find another avenue. We need to get somewhere else. And I would love to. But the problem is no one else cares. I mean, quite honestly, even the people that are conservative, quote unquote, I had my fingers up for the fingers air quote, don't even care. They'll just stay and put up with it and be cowed into not speaking their mind. Just so. Any last thoughts on this? I'll let you get back to your vacation. I'm sure your coffee is either sitting next to you getting cold or it's sitting in the coffee pot waiting to be consumed.
Well, the big tragedy is I can't get my coffee maker in my RV to work. I don't really like it when I camp.
Oh, no, this is a tragedy. This is a disaster.
Being the prepper I am, I did have plenty of instant ready to go, but it's just not the same. Woe is me. You know, we're compelled to do business with an organization that does not want us. Imagine being forced to go and eat in restaurants like that. Sarah Brown tried to, and is that her name? Gosh, that's pretty bad of me. I'm totally in vacation mode of going into a restaurant and establishment that does not want us all the time. You know, they serve us bad food, they spit in our food, and we keep coming back. And that's what we're doing here with Facebook. And I've just decided it's really not a healthy endeavor. I'm going to just really back off and limit what I do on there as well. And it's sad, but I think ultimately the truth and liberty, freedom principles there are going to be suppressed. I fear for generations beyond our own and what they're going to face. And the thing is, they'll be so indoctrinated, they'll probably be happy with it. I'll go back, I was going to say 20 years, but more than that. When I was 12 years old and I was in Sweden with my mom, my family's from Sweden, her side anyway. And I remember a conversation she was having with her cousin, and we're looking out at all these houses, and they look quite uniform. And she said, "Yeah, the houses all look alike." Yes, in Sweden, the taxes here are very high, at least 90%. But you know what? Everybody's the same. And I was only 12, and this is not computing with me. I'm thinking, what's right with everybody being the same? Because clearly everybody doesn't put in the same amount of effort. And they were so okay with this. It didn't make sense to me then, and now I see why they've been so completely taken over today and where they are today. So, I know that's just my thought. Equality, I think Tom Woods said, is the bloodiest idea in human history. So, you know, who knows where we're going. I'm on vacation, and I'm going to go see some cliff dwellings in a little bit.
There you go.
And I'll harken back to those days. I wish I lived back then.
I'm so glad you're on vacation. I'm envious. Wish I was there because, honestly, I know where you're at, and I love that state, and I love the natural beauty there because it is a beautiful state. And you know what? Utah is as well.
I'm in Colorado. We went from Utah. We went south. I drove south through Moab. We spent the night in Monument Valley. There is a KOA in the Navajo Nation reservation there. And we literally slept among the rock formations in Monument Valley. It was just absolutely amazing. I got to spend some time with the native people and really enjoyed myself. And now I'm in Colorado. We're going to visit Mesa Verde National Park. So I will let you finish your show, and thanks for letting me come on and say hi to everybody.
Well, thank you for joining. I mean, this was a spur of the moment thing. On my post this morning, folks, I did not have Suzanne as a guest. But we were talking this morning, and I brought up that I was going to be discussing this subject, and she joined. So anyway, Suzanne, enjoy yourself. I'm sorry you're drinking instant. I mean, that is definitely a imposition on life. That is not my favorite. But enjoy it. Have a good time. I know you and your son are going to have a great time there, and I know you're with good friends. Enjoy yourself. And get rested up and come back, and we'll get after and get to work and get busy defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny together.
From the flames of Facebook. Yeah. Have a great day.
Oh, you too. Have a good time. All right. That was Suzanne Sherman. Everyone that listens to this network on a regular basis knows that she is the host of the Wasatch Report. She's the co-host with Mark Kreslins of the Mark and Suzanne show. That's a great news show. She also started recently Case in Point, which is looking at the Supreme Court cases of the past and how they got it wrong. And so there's all kinds of things that Suzanne's involved in. She's crazy busy on this network. She does appearances on local radio in Utah. And hopefully she'll get a full time once a week, maybe one day a week. Maybe it's gonna be more. I don't know. I haven't heard the specifics, but she may be on terrestrial radio with her own show. So I hope she gets that. It'd be great because she'll be spreading more of this founding thought, because that's what we do here. We don't talk about right left paradigms. We shift the paradigm away from the normal paradigm of right, left, red, blue, Republican, Democrat, because that is where they want you focused. That's where the ruling elite are happy for you to sit there and continue to argue over. Why would they want you to discuss liberty? Why would they want you to discuss natural rights? I mean, that's why we do what we do, because we're discussing the natural order. Free expression, that's a natural right. That's something that's inherent in you. You have endowed to you by your creator the natural right to free expression. And after the break, I'm going to take a quick break here in just a second. We're going to discuss this ballot initiative in California to split the state into 3 states. Basically, what they're going to do is secede from the union, which they have to do to split up. And if some of them are smart, they'll never apply for membership in this union, this voluntary union again. They would be better off staying out. But who knows? I'm sure they're going to apply to come back in. Then the Congress is involved. Once they make an application to return, then Congress is involved. They have to give their assent. So, anyway, we're going to come back and talk about that natural right of self-determination and free association. And I know in the past, Mark Kreslins has talked about that on another network. So, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll reset. We'll start into this other discussion on secession. And this is the Cerberus Radio Network, the paradigm shift on the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
She walked out of the grocery store just the other day. She saw my flag waving in the wind, said, throw that trash away. I said, ma'am, I am a Christian man, and I believe Americans' right. That flag's gonna stay right where it is, and here's my reason why.
Prepare to attack. Prepare to attack on the count of 3. 1, 2, late. What happened? Where are they? I don't know, sir. They must have hyperjets on that thing. And what do we got on this thing? A Cuisinart? No, sir. We'll find them, catch them. Yes, sir. Prepare ship for light speed. No. Light speed is too slow. Light speed too slow? Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed. Ludicrous speed? Sir, we've never gone that fast before. I don't know if the ship can take it. What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? Prepare ship! Prepare ship for ludicrous speed. Fasten all seatbelts. Seal all entrances and exits. Close all shops in the mall. Cancel the 3-ring circus. Secure all animals in the zoo. Give me that, you petty excuse for an officer. Now hear this. Ludicrous speed! Sir, had you better buckle up? Buckle this! Ludicrous speed! Go! What the hell was that? Spaceball 1. They've gone to plaid!
Are you as tired as we are of government going at ludicrous speed? Listen to Cerberus Radio Network as we bring you founders' solutions to the flames of tyranny. Cerberus Radio Network, protecting liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
Well, welcome back to the Paradigm Shift. This is your host, Jeff Johnson, and this is the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. All right, let's switch gears from Facebook, and let's put our attention on California and the ballot initiative to split the state into 3 states. Again, I think it's a poor choice for the ballot initiative. The ballot initiative just should say that they're going to secede from the union. But to put in there that they're going to seek to become a new state, they actually do put it in the purview of the Constitution. Because there, you have to read the whole thing about splitting a state to become 2 different states. There is a process for that. Where if they just said, we're going to secede, we're going to become our own country, and then once they have done that, band together with the other local counties that you wish to be a separate country with, then secede from the state of California and become your own country on your own. And then do whatever you want to do after that. If your desire is to come back into this voluntary union, to come back into this voluntary union, then apply to become a state. as I said earlier, as long as you're not trying to become a state, the Congress and the Constitution has no authority. We're going to go to Bledsoe in a few minutes because, again, Bledsoe wrote the book that's never been, has never had the arguments defeated. It is the authority on secession. He went, and again, well, why? I'll show the book on here on the screen so people watching can see it. I'll give you the title. If you want to find it, it's on Amazon. I know it's there. If you want to read a book, and what did Bledsoe write this book for? Because he was going to defend Jefferson Davis in his treason trial. The Union was going to try Jefferson Davis for treason for being the president of the Confederate States when they left legally, and he makes the point to prove that they left legally. Not that it matters, because it's not a legal issue. It's a political issue. It is a matter of self-determination. What did we talk about earlier about self-determination? It's a natural right. We have a natural right to self-determination. Right now, I'm looking for my Constitution, or excuse me, Declaration of Independence. It's not there, so it must be somewhere else. I got a smaller copy right here. I had printed out, so I had larger print because it's easier to read off larger print while I'm trying to do the show. Anyway, so what did Jefferson? Let's start off there. Let's just back up a little bit. Declaration of Independence. What did Jefferson have to say on the subject? Oh, where is it? It's at the rear. That's why I'm having trouble finding it. That's why I like having my printed out thing. But again, this morning, I was running a little late, so I didn't get it. Okay. So we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Again, natural rights. These are rights that can't be taken away by government. And among them is self-determination, free association. So we, as the states, we associated, and we're going to read something about that in a bit with Bledsoe. We associated together freely. We made the decision to form a voluntary union to do certain things on behalf of the states. So that was our free association, our natural right, our unalienable right. That among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That is when we agreed as states. Now, obviously, none of us were alive when the Constitution was ratified. But when our forefathers agreed or assented to the compact, the contract, the Constitution, they exercised their natural right to free association and self-determination by giving their consent to be governed under that form of government, the blueprint. The Constitution's a blueprint. I'm going to do a little aside here. I thought about this earlier while I was preparing for the show. How many times have you heard the words, the Constitution is the law, quote, finger quotes again, folks, we're on the radio, so you can't see me doing it. You on YouTube can. Do my finger quotes. Law of the land. How many times have you heard that? The Constitution is not the law of the land. It is a blueprint for a general government to act as an agent. It is a contract between the states. It's not the law, the rule over the people. And when people say it's the law of the land, that's what they mean. That the Constitution is there to rule you. That's what, come on, be honest. That's what it is. So when people say that the Supreme Court has ruled and it's the law of the land, what are they saying? That the federal government now has it's the law. They rule your life. So you can pray in public. That's public schools. you can't pray in a public square. Why? Because the government has decreed the law of the land. That's why this is not the law of the land. It is a blueprint. They set up a government. It's not inspired by God to be holy writ. It's not, whatever. It's not the law of the land. Let's lay that aside. So anyway, they have people that say it's the law of the land, but no, it's a contract. It is a compact. It set up a government, and we, our forefathers, consented to be governed by it. So if we can accede to it, we can secede to it. Let's just go ahead right to Bledsoe. And if you're on YouTube, let's see. All right, you're seeing the book right now. This is this particular copy was edited by Brian McClanahan and Mike Church. It's on Amazon. You can also find it on Mike Church's page. I'll give a tribute to where I got this one. You can get this, not this particular one, a different one that's not edited and doesn't have annotation, because they annotate and put all kinds of extra information in here as well. So if you go to Amazon, you can find, again, it's, sorry for you guys out on the radio, is Davis a traitor, or was secession a constitutional right previous to the War of 1861? That's the title. And it's by Albert Taylor Bledsoe. I would strongly encourage you to buy this book. As I said earlier, it is the book that's never been refuted. He devised his defense of Jefferson Davis, and when the Union figured out that they were going to lose, and if they lost, they might win because they had the court packed. Again, this is the problem with going to a federal court to stop something. Well, is the federal judge going to rule against the federal government? Really? No, not really. You're going to the court that has a vested interest in protecting the people that give them a paycheck. So even if they won in the court, they knew that they would lose in the court of public opinion because of this defense. So what do? They dropped the charges. Jefferson Davis went home free. So now Bledsoe had written this whole defense, and he decided to put it in book form. And so that's what this is. This is Jefferson Davis's legal defense by Albert Taylor Bledsoe. So anyway, chapter 2. The issue or point in controversy. That's the subtitle. It is conceded both by Webster and Story. They were anti-secession, Webster and Story, that if the Constitution is a compact to which the states are the parties, then the states have a right to secede from the Union at pleasure. So, and it's going to expound on that whole sentence. But what he's saying is that even they concede that it's a compact, a contract between the states that they voluntarily entered into or acceded. That's a pivotal word inside this book. Accede. Give your consent to. Consent of the governed. Remember that. That's Jefferson again. That's a very important idea. You're offering your consent to be governed. Thus, says Webster, in stating the consequences of Mr. Calhoun's doctrine, if a league between sovereign powers have no limitation as to the time of duration and contain nothing making it perpetual, it subsists only during the good pleasure of the parties. Someone out there, please show me where there is a time limit or a unlimited time limit for the Constitution, or words in the Constitution that make it illegal specifically to secede or leave the Union. That's your homework assignment. Post it up in on Cerberus Radio Network on Facebook on a page there. If you find words that make it specifically illegal to secede from the Union, post it there. I'd be interested to see it because there's my pocket constitution. For you on YouTube and those on radio, I'm holding up my pocket constitution. All right. So they stay in it at their pleasure, is where I left up. Of pleasure of the parties. Although no violation be complained of, if, in the opinion of either party, it be violated, such party may say he is no longer fulfill its obligation on his part, but will consider the whole league or compact at an end. Although it might be one of its stipulations that it should be perpetual, in like manner, Mr. Justice Story says, the obvious deductions which may be, and indeed have been, drawn from considering the Constitution a compact between the states are that it operates as a mere treaty or convention between them. That's another way to look at this. The Constitution is a treaty between sovereign nations. What is a state? Isn't it merely a county of the whole? Is the state of Pennsylvania or the state of Utah for Suzanne or the state of Oklahoma for Mark Kreslins, are they mere counties? Are they mere subsets of the whole? Is this the United States of America? And they're just mere substates. No. They are states. They are the when someone says, okay, just an example, the state of Israel, what are they saying? It's the nation of Israel. So you live in whatever state you are is the nation of that state. It is a nation. You entered into a treaty with the other now 50 states and compacted, agreed together, offered your consent to be governed on very limited things to a general government. Article 1, Section 8. Those are the limited powers. If it's not in Article 1, Section 8, they can't do it. Obamacare, not there. Can't do it. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, not there. Can't do it. Oh, but we have the Good and Plenty Clause, the General Welfare Clause. So that means that anything that the government wants to do is free game. So then why did they put Article 1, Section 8? That was a wasted article. They wasted all that space. Because the general welfare is defined by the limiting document of Article 1, Section 8. Those specific things are the general welfare. It's not an unlimited thing, so they can do whatever they want, just like the full faith and credit. You hear that all the time, too. That gives them the right to do whatever they want. Whatever. No. It is limited by Article 1, Section 8. Those are the powers that the nations that created the compact, the treaty between them, delegated to a general government to do on their behalf. They created an agent. And I think that was one of the words that he used right here in this quote here, in this first paragraph. So, let's just go there. That it operates as a mere treaty or convention between them and has an obligatory force no longer than suits its pleasure or its consent continues. So the treaty will go on as long as the consent continues. And see, here we're going back to this central idea of governance, back to Jefferson and the Declaration. The whole idea of consent. Thus, the great controversy is narrowed between the states. If so, then the right of secession is conceded, even by its most powerful and determined opponents, by the great jurist and as well as by the great expounder of the North. The denial that the Constitution was a compact is presented in every possible form and variety of expression. We are told that it was not made by the states nor by the people of the states, but by the people of the whole United States aggregate. All right, I'm going to stop there. You can buy that book and read the book. It is a transformative book because it will transform your ideas about the consent about the Constitution. So basically, that is the argument we see today, even that somehow it's the consent of the whole, everyone, all 320 million people, has nothing to do with the states. But see, no, this was a compact between the states. The states entered into the contract, into the treaty, on behalf of the people of their states. That's why you have a state constitution. That's the constitution that matters to you, not the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution, all that is, again, like I said, it's not something to rule you. It is a treaty. It's a contract between the nations, the 50 of them. So anyway, let's go to this article. This is, what the heck? I can't remember. I'm thinking this was I can't remember if this is the LA Times or who it was. It's written by Mara Dolan. Measure to split California into 3 states removed from the ballot by the state Supreme Court. The California Supreme Court decided unanimously Wednesday to remove from the November ballot a measure aimed to divide the California into 3 states. The decision was at his feet for Tim Draper of Silicon Valley venture capitalist, considered an eccentric, because, well, he's got to be eccentric if he believes that we have the right to consent to our governance. An entrepreneur who spent $1.2 million on the measure. 4 years ago, a wealthy Atherton resident spent $5.2 million promoting a measure that would have split California into 6 states. It did not qualify for the ballot. He reacted angrily to the court's action, calling it corruption. Said in an email, "This kind of corruption is what in third world countries." He said the state's insiders were in cahoots. In brief order, the court said it acted because significant questions have been raised regarding the position's validity, because we concluded that the potential harm in permitting the measure to remain on the ballot outweighs the potential harm in delaying the proposition to future elections. So, excuse me, I got a cough. So, they didn't quote any legal reason other than the potential harm. They didn't. Maybe they cited somewhere else in their thing, but in the story they don't cite the harm that they said it would do. But they are going to deny the people of California their right to self-determination and free association. That's so. If and I'm sure King George's courts said that we couldn't secede from Great Britain, and that's what and don't be fooled, that's what the Declaration of Independence was. It was a declaration of secession. What did he say at the end of it? Let's get it back out. Let's go to the last paragraph. I'll read the last paragraph again. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, and that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the states of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do, and for the support of the Declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge each our lives, fortunes, and our sacred honor. So there's the operative part of that. They dissolved their bands. They separated from Great Britain. These people want to separate from the United States. Now, again, we can argue this whole thing because, again, they're making 3 states, and so that implies that they want to come back in. It is the consent of the government. If they decide they want to leave the Union, it is their right as human beings, inherent in them, to associate with who they wish, to self-determine how they're going to rule themselves. But the California Supreme Court, because they said there could be harm, denied them their right to consent to be governed. And as I started to say, I'm sure King George, his court said, you can't leave. You don't have the right to consent to be governed. There's so much stuff in here. I mean, I just don't have time to go through the rest of it. And I'm really not going to have time to get into Rand Paul and Ron Paul talking about this whole craziness of the public of our foreign policy, and how everyone lost their minds when Trump did what presidents do and met with a foreign leader. Who's does diplomacy in the Constitution? It's the president. But again, that's one last thing. I only have a few minutes here. Let's go back to something I said on a previous show, that we do not have co-equal branches of government. They're not checks and balances as such. There may be a level of checks and balances, but it's very minute. Who was granted all the authority in the Constitution in Article 1? The legislature. You read Article 2. What actual authority was the president given? He was made commander-in-chief when we were at war. Who declares war? Congress. So he's not commander-in-chief until Congress declares war. So today we have this whole notion that he's the commander-in-chief. No, he's the commander-in-chief when there is a war that has been declared and the federal troops are called together from the militias of the states and the war is waged. So he's not a commander-in-chief all the time. It's just when Congress says he's commander-in-chief because they've declared war. He can veto legislation. So he was granted a little bit of authority there. But the House and Senate can override his veto, overturn his objection to it. So even there, they have the ultimate authority. They can just say, well, sorry, we don't agree with you, and vote and get the prerequisite number, and bam, it's law, in spite of the president. So really read the Constitution again sometime and actually look at that and see what really power does the president have. Oh, he can enter treaties. Well, not really. Then he has to go to the Senate and get a vote there. They have to agree to it. If they don't agree, it's not a treaty. Think about it. Actually read it. Actually read the Constitution with that in mind. That in light of in the picture of your mind. The Supreme Court. What can they actually hear? Who can tell the Supreme Court what they can hear? Congress. There wasn't three co-equal branches. There wasn't checks and balances. The legislature was designed to be the important aspect of this general government. Oh my goodness, where did time go? I have 1 minute. I got to start the music here because we're out of time. Thank you for listening to the Paradigm Shift here on the Cerberus Radio Network, where we defend liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. This week, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm sure there's a Mark and Suzanne show. Suzanne's away. I will be there on with Mark to do the show with him. He may make arrangements for a guest. Who knows? But listen, there's always something on Radio Co. Go to a Radio Co. feed and listen to the Cerberus Radio Network. Thank you for listening this morning. Have a good day. Defend liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny, folks.